need your help. Mabel, I'm in the middle of class. The traditional methods to understand animals just weren't working. Gives us unprecedented access to the animal world. We call it Hop. Mabel, be careful!
This here will rock your body.
I understand you. This is incredible!
Live here, you better learn puns.
What are pun rules?
I clear you. Rule number 1, don't be a stranger. Good friend, time to fun. Rule number 2, when you gotta eat.
The humans have stolen their lobster land from us.
Welcome to Z Cineplex, say your ultimate entertainment destination. Welcome to Z Cineplex, the home of entertainment, creativity, and cinematic excitement. Our channel is dedicated to bringing viewers a rich collection of engaging content that celebrates the world of movies, storytelling, and visual entertainment. Whether you're a passionate film enthusiast, someone who enjoys discovering new cinematic experiences, or simply looking for high-quality entertainment, Z Cineplex is designed to be your go-to destination. We strive to create content that is informative, enjoyable, and engaging for audiences of all ages, offering a unique blend of movie-related features, entertainment updates, insightful discussions, creative videos, and much more. Every upload is crafted with attention to quality, ensuring that our viewers receive an enjoyable experience that keeps them coming back for more. At Z Cineplex, we believe that cinema is more than just watching films. It's about experiencing emotions, exploring stories, appreciating creativity, and connecting with people who share the same passion for entertainment. Our mission is to build a vibrant community where movie lovers and entertainment enthusiasts can discover exciting content, share their opinions, and stay connected with the latest trends in the entertainment industry. We are committed to consistently improving our content, embracing new ideas, and delivering videos that entertain, inform, and inspire our growing audience. Whether you're here for movie highlights, entertainment discussions, reviews, cinematic moments, or fresh creative content, Z Cineplex promises an enjoyable journey filled with excitement, quality, and unforgettable entertainment. Join our community by subscribing, turning on notifications, and becoming part of the Z Cineplex family as we continue to explore the fascinating world of cinema and entertainment together. Thank you for your support, and welcome to Z Cineplex, where every video brings entertainment to life. Hoppers, also known as Jumpers in some international markets, is a 2026 American animated science fiction comedy film produced by Pixar Animation Studios and released by Walt Disney Pictures. Directed by Daniel Chong and written by Jesse Andrews from a story he developed with Chong, the film features the voices of Piper Crittenden, Bobby Moynihan, Job Ham, Kathy Najimy, and Dave Franco. The story centers on Mabel Tanaka, voiced by Piper Crittenden, a compassionate college student and passionate animal lover who volunteers with the Wildlife Conservation Program. When she discovers that a planned development project threatens to destroy the habitat of a thriving beaver community and countless other woodland animals, she joins an experimental scientific initiative that allows human consciousness to be transferred into lifelike robotic animals known as hoppers. Assuming the form of a robotic beaver, Mabel enters the forest to communicate directly with its animal inhabitants and convince them to work alongside humans to protect their home. However, her arrival unintentionally disrupts the forest's delicate social order, inspiring the animals to challenge the authority of both humans and their own traditional leaders. As tensions rise and an unexpected animal uprising unfolds, Mabel must navigate the growing conflict while learning valuable lessons about trust, coexistence, environmental stewardship, and the importance of understanding different perspectives. Combining Pixar's signature emotional storytelling with science fiction concepts, humor, and heartfelt themes, Hoppers explores humanity's relationship with nature through an imaginative adventure filled with memorable characters and vibrant animation. Development on Hoppers began after Daniel Chong returned to Pixar in December 2020. With the project evolving over a 6-year production period before being officially announced at Disney's D23 Expo in August 2024. The film's musical score was composed by Mark Mothersbaugh, while Grammy Award-winning singer-songwriter SZA wrote and performed the original end credits song, Save the Day. Hoppers held its world premiere at the El Capitan Theater in Los Angeles on February 23, 2026. Before receiving a wide theatrical release in the United States on March 6, 2026. The film was met with generally positive reviews from critics, who praised its inventive premise, emotional core, environmental message, humor, voice performances, and animation. It went on to gross approximately $389 million worldwide against a reported production budget of $150 million, making it one of Pixar's successful post-pandemic releases and the 7th highest-grossing film of 2026. As a spirited 6-year-old, Mabel Tanaka's lifelong passion for animals first emerges when she passionately argues with her elementary school principal over the treatment of classroom pets, insisting that living creatures should not be confined to small artificial enclosures for human amusement. Her protest escalates into a confrontation that results in her suspension from school. Exhausted by her daughter's stubbornness, Mabel's mother leaves her in the care of her grandmother, who lives beside a vast forest glade rich with wildlife. During her stay, Mabel's grandmother teaches her to appreciate the beauty and interconnectedness of nature, encouraging her to observe animals with patience and compassion rather than attempting to control them. These experiences profoundly shape Mabel's worldview and ignite a lifelong commitment to protecting the natural world. 13 years later, now 19 years old and studying biology in college, Mabel continues to visit and care for the glade despite the passing of her beloved grandmother and the departure of her parents from the area. Her peaceful sanctuary is threatened when ambitious Beaverton Mayor Jerry Generazzo unveils plans to construct a massive beltway directly through the forest, falsely claiming that the wildlife has already abandoned the region. Mabel organizes petitions, public demonstrations, and community outreach campaigns to oppose the project, but she struggles to convince local residents, who largely dismiss her concerns in favor of promises of economic development. Determined to prove the animals are still present, Mabel ventures deep into the forest searching for evidence. During her investigation, she accidentally discovers that her college biology professor, Dr. Sam, along with fellow scientists Nisha and Connor, have secretly developed an experimental technology known as the Hoppers program. The revolutionary invention allows a person's consciousness to be transferred into highly advanced robotic animal bodies, enabling scientists to observe wildlife from within their own ecosystems without disturbing them. Although Dr. Sam warns that the technology is intended solely for research and that interfering with animal societies could produce catastrophic consequences, Mabel believes it represents her only opportunity to save the glade. Ignoring the scientists' objections, she uploads her consciousness into a robotic beaver and escapes into the wilderness before anyone can stop her. Mistaken by the forest's inhabitants for an ordinary beaver, Mabel is brought before King George, the wise and compassionate monarch of the mammals. George reveals that countless displaced animals have taken refuge inside an enormous overcrowded beaver dam after mysteriously abandoning their natural homes. As Mabel gains the trust of George and the other animals, she discovers the true reason for the exodus. Jerry secretly installed disguised mechanical trees throughout the forest that emit powerful ultrasonic frequencies inaudible to humans but unbearably painful to animals, forcing them to flee so construction could proceed without environmental opposition. Realizing the extent of Jerry's deception, Mabel destroys one of the devices, allowing many animals to safely return to the glade. As she spends more time among the woodland creatures, she develops a close friendship with George and begins to admire his thoughtful leadership and unwavering dedication to protecting every species under his care. Just as she prepares to reveal that she is actually human, Jerry escalates his campaign by detonating explosives that devastate part of the forest and installing even more sound-emitting trees throughout the region. Recognizing that the threat now extends beyond the mammals alone, Mabel and George summon a historic gathering of the Animal Council, whose members include monarchs representing the insects, amphibians, fish, reptiles, birds, and mammals. Initially, many of the rulers are reluctant to become involved, believing Jerry's actions affect only the mammals' territory. However, Mabel passionately argues that if humans succeed in destroying one habitat, every ecosystem will eventually face the same fate. While her speech successfully unites the council, it unintentionally inspires several of its members to conclude that eliminating Jerry is the only way to ensure their survival. Horrified by this interpretation, Mabel desperately attempts to stop the council from embracing violence. During the ensuing chaos, she accidentally causes the death of the insect queen, triggering widespread panic. Mabel and George flee as the enraged council turns against them, while robotic animal bodies being used by Nisha and Connor to secretly monitor the meeting are destroyed, exposing the scientists' deception. Seizing the opportunity, the ambitious insect prince Titus crowns himself king and assumes control of the Animal Council, steering it toward an increasingly militant campaign against humanity. Although George initially feels betrayed after learning Mabel is actually a human using robotic technology, he ultimately forgives her after recognizing her genuine desire to protect the forest. Together with the cheerful Beaverloaf, the resourceful lizard Tom, and the powerful Bear Ellen, they decide their only hope is to prevent further bloodshed by protecting Jerry from Titus's increasingly dangerous schemes. After locating the mayor, the group forces him to accompany them back to the glade in the hope of convincing him to halt construction. Along the journey, Titus dispatches seagulls to assassinate Jerry by dropping a shark named Diane onto his moving vehicle. Although the bizarre attack fails, Jerry stubbornly refuses to abandon the Beltway project or acknowledge the consequences of his actions. Frustrated by his refusal to listen and believing only the scientists can prevent a catastrophe, Mabel reveals their location to both Dr. Sam's team and the Animal Council. The scientists arrive first and forcibly disconnect Mabel from her robotic beaver body, causing her consciousness to return to her human body while the robotic shell collapses. When Mabel regains consciousness, she discovers that Titus has seized complete control of the situation. The Animal Council has captured Jerry, the scientists, and everyone else present, forcing Dr. Sam, Nisha, and Connor to construct a robotic duplicate of the mayor into which Titus transfers his consciousness. Disguised as Jerry, Titus intends to use facial recognition technology to access the mayor's phone and activate every ultrasonic sound tree during Jerry's re-election rally at the glade, slaughtering thousands of unsuspecting humans and beginning an all-out war between animals and mankind. Before departing, Titus harshly condemns Mabel, accusing her of stealing advanced technology, deceiving the animals, and manipulating them for her own goals. Jerry likewise blames Mabel for inspiring the animals' violent rebellion against humanity. Confronted with the unintended consequences of her choices, Mabel finally realizes that her desperation to save the forest caused her to ignore ethical boundaries and contributed to the escalating conflict. Accepting responsibility for her mistakes, she reconciles with Jerry, who reluctantly agrees to upload his consciousness into another robotic beaver so they can escape together and stop Titus before it is too late. At Jerry's campaign rally in the glade, Mabel makes one final attempt to reason with Titus, pleading with him to abandon his plan and choose coexistence instead of revenge. Titus rejects her appeal, convinced that humanity can never change. As Jerry, the scientists, George, and the other animals struggle to disconnect Titus from the robotic duplicate, the attempt fails and destroys Jerry's robotic beaver body. During the ensuing battle, Mabel notices that Jerry's phone has landed atop one of the disguised sound trees and climbs it to retrieve the device before Titus can activate the network. She tears away the realistic latex mask covering Titus's robotic face, preventing the phone's facial recognition system from recognizing him as Jerry. Furious, Titus tears down the tree, openly revealing his true objective. After humanity's destruction, he intends for the insects to exterminate every remaining animal species and rule the earth alone. His confession horrifies the other monarchs, who immediately realize they have been manipulated into serving his ambitions. Before Titus can continue, the amphibian king devours him, ending his reign. Moments later, the collapsing tree ignites a massive wildfire that rapidly spreads across the glade toward Beaverton. Working together for the first time, the Animal Council, George, Mabel, the scientists, Jerry, and countless forest animals dismantle George's enormous dam, unleashing a torrent of water that floods the forest and extinguishes the raging fire before it can reach the city. In the aftermath of the crisis, Jerry publicly admits his mistakes and permanently reroutes the beltway away from the forest. The glade is designated a protected wildlife preserve, ensuring the animal's habitat will remain safe for future generations. Mabel successfully graduates from college and, although the Hoppers program is officially discontinued because of the dangers revealed during the incident, Dr. Sam recognizes her dedication to conservation and hires her as his research assistant. Despite no longer being able to inhabit a robotic animal, Mabel remains close friends with King George, and the two continue to communicate using specially designed text-to-speech technology, symbolizing the lasting bond forged between humans and the natural world through understanding, accountability, and cooperation. The voice cast of Hoppers is led by Piper Kurta as Mabel Tanaka, a compassionate and determined 19-year-old Japanese-American college biology student whose lifelong love of animals inspires her to fight to protect her grandmother's beloved forest glade. After discovering the experimental Hoppers technology, Mabel transfers her consciousness into a robotic beaver, allowing her to communicate directly with wildlife and ultimately becoming the bridge between the human and animal worlds. Leela Oldu voices 6-year-old Mabel during the film's opening flashback, portraying the young girl's curiosity, stubborn determination, and the formative experiences that ignite her passion for nature. Bobby Moynihan voices King George, the wise, optimistic, and compassionate monarch of the mammals and leader of the forest's beaver colony. George serves as Mabel's closest ally after believing her to be an ordinary beaver, eventually becoming one of the film's emotional centers as he learns to trust humans despite their destructive actions. Job Ham voices Jerry Generazzo, the ambitious yet insecure mayor of Beaverton, whose determination to build a new beltway through the forest leads him to secretly drive the animals away using ultrasonic technology. Although initially portrayed as greedy and self-serving, Jerry gradually recognizes the consequences of his decisions and ultimately works alongside Mabel to prevent an all-out conflict between humans and animals. Kathy Najimy voices Dr. Samantha Sam, Mabel's college biology professor and the brilliant scientist who invents the revolutionary Hoppers technology. Originally intending the robotic animal program solely for peaceful wildlife observation and conservation research, Sam becomes increasingly alarmed after Mabel steals the technology but later joins her efforts to stop the escalating crisis. During the film's climax, Sam pilots a robotic rabbit hopper to assist in rescuing both humans and animals. Dave Franco voices Titus, the ambitious and calculating son of the insect queen. Introduced as an idealistic young butterfly prince, Titus transforms into the film's primary antagonist. After inheriting his mother's throne and becoming ruler of the insects, consumed by revenge against humanity, he manipulates the Animal Council into supporting his increasingly violent campaign before ultimately revealing his intention to conquer not only humans but every other animal species as well. Iman Abdul Razik voices the younger version of Titus during his caterpillar stage, illustrating his early admiration for his mother before his descent into extremism. Eduardo Franco voices Loaf, a gentle, loyal, and somewhat slow-witted beaver who provides much of the film's comic relief while remaining fiercely devoted to King George and Mabel throughout their journey. Aparna Nankala voices Nisha, one of Dr. Sam's highly intelligent research colleagues, whose technical expertise helps operate the Hoppers program and monitor Mabel's mission within the forest. Sam Richardson voices Connor, an enthusiastic graduate student working under Dr. Sam, who twice inhabits a robotic crane as part of the scientific team's observation efforts. Tom Law voices Tom Lizard, an easygoing reptile who would rather avoid conflict than become involved in the growing tensions between humans and animals, but ultimately proves to be a dependable friend during the final battle. Melissa Villas A++ voices Ellen, an intimidating yet warm-hearted brown bear whose fierce appearance hides a protective nature and unwavering loyalty to her friends. The Animal Council is portrayed by an accomplished ensemble of performers representing the rulers of the forest's various animal kingdoms. Meryl Streep voices the Insect Queen, the respected and formidable butterfly monarch whose wisdom and authority have long maintained peace among the animal kingdoms. Her accidental death becomes the catalyst for the political upheaval that allows Titus to seize power. Isaiah Whitlock Jr. voices the Bird King, a dignified goose monarch representing the avian kingdom. Steve Purcell voices the wise amphibian king, a frog ruler whose decisive actions ultimately bring Titus's reign to an end. Ego Dim voices the fish queen, the calm and thoughtful sovereign of the aquatic animals, while Nicole Sakura voices the reptile queens, a trio of snake sisters who jointly rule the reptiles and serve as members of the Animal Council. Karen Huey voices Grandma Tanaka, Mabel's loving grandmother, whose gentle lessons about respecting nature and listening to the sounds of the forest profoundly shape Mabel's values despite appearing only in the film's opening flashbacks. Vanessa Bayer voices Diane, an enormous great white shark enlisted by the Bird Kingdom as an unlikely assassin during one of the film's most absurd comedic sequences, in which she is dropped from the sky in an attempt to eliminate Jerry Generazzo. For the German-language dub, international model and television personality Heidi Klum voices the character, who was renamed Hottie as a language-specific pun. Joe Spano appears as an elderly resident of Beaverton, representing the local community affected by the Beltway debate. The film's additional voice cast includes Lori Allen as Mrs. Tanaka, Mabel's caring but often exasperated mother, Eric Edelstein as a construction worker involved with the Beltway project, and Demetri Martin, who provides the voices of several birds and a worm encountered throughout Mabel's adventure. For the United Kingdom release, comedian Alan Carr and television presenter Amanda Holden contribute exclusive regional cameo performances as Alan the Squirrel and Amanda the Spider, respectively, adding localized humor for British audiences. Development of Hoppers began in late 2020 after filmmaker Daniel Chong returned to Pixar Animation Studios following the conclusion of his work at Cartoon Network, where he created the acclaimed animated series We Bare Bears, 2015-2019, and directed its feature-length conclusion, We Bare Bears, the movie, 2020. In December 2020, Chong announced on social media that he had rejoined Pixar to develop an original animated feature, although he did not reveal any details about the project at the time. Over the following several years, Chong collaborated closely with writer Jesse Andrews, who had previously written Pixar's Luca, 2021. Together, the pair developed the story, with Chong serving as director and Andrews writing the screenplay from a story they created jointly. Andrews later disclosed that he had spent approximately 3 years working on the project before its official unveiling. After nearly 4 years of secrecy, Pixar Chief Creative Officer Pete Docter formally announced the film during Disney's D23 fan event in August 2024, revealing its title as Hoppers and introducing its central premise of humans inhabiting robotic animal bodies to communicate with wildlife. During the presentation, Pixar also confirmed that Piper Greta, Bobby Moynihan, and John Hamm would headline the voice cast, with additional cast members being announced over the following months. From its earliest conception through completion, Hoppers remained in active development for approximately 6 years, making it one of Pixar's longest-developed original projects of the decade. In interviews following the announcement, Chong explained that the film's concept grew out of his fascination with wildlife documentaries that use realistic robotic animals equipped with hidden cameras to observe animals in their natural habitats. He found the idea of humans attempting to blend into animal societies inherently humorous, believing the awkward misunderstandings and cultural differences between species provided fertile ground for both comedy and emotional storytelling. Chong described the film as combining environmental adventure with science fiction, character-driven comedy, and elements of an espionage thriller. He cited the immersive body transfer concept popularized by Avatar as one influence on the film's premise, while emphasizing that Hoppers also incorporates the suspense and covert infiltration found in spy films such as the Mission Impossible series, with protagonist Mabel Tanaka secretly entering an unfamiliar society while attempting to conceal her true identity. According to Chong, balancing heartfelt themes about conservation, empathy, and coexistence with fast-paced action and broad comedic situations became one of the project's primary creative goals. The film underwent several major creative changes during development before reaching its final form. Chong's earliest pitch featured penguins as the story's central animal protagonists, but Pete Docter expressed concerns that penguins had already headlined numerous successful animated films, including Happy Feet, Penguins of Madagascar, and Wallace Gromit, Vengeance Most Foul, making it difficult for the project to establish a unique identity. Encouraged to explore other species, Chong began researching animals that have a significant impact on their ecosystems and became fascinated by beavers, whose dam-building activities naturally reshape landscapes, create wetlands, and support biodiversity. Their remarkable role as ecosystem engineers aligned closely with the film's environmental themes, leading Chong to redesign the story around a community of beavers led by King George and to transform Mabel's robotic animal form into a beaver as well. This decision influenced numerous aspects of the narrative, from the setting and visual design to the film's central conflict over habitat preservation, ultimately giving Hoppers a more distinctive identity while reinforcing its message about the importance of protecting nature and recognizing the vital role every species plays within an ecosystem. During the development of Hoppers, the film's story and thematic direction attracted public attention following reports about Pixar's internal creative process. In December 2024, The Hollywood Reporter published an article citing a former Pixar artist who claimed that members of the creative team had been instructed to downplay the film's originally planned environmental message during production. The report fueled speculation that Pixar and its parent company, Disney, were encouraging filmmakers to present the story's conservation themes in a less overt or politically charged manner, prompting discussion among animation fans and industry observers about the extent of creative oversight at the studio. Because Hoppers centers on habitat destruction, wildlife conservation, and the relationships between humans and nature, many interpreted the report as suggesting that these themes had been softened during development. Director Daniel Chong later addressed the rumors in a July 2025 interview with Screen Rant, firmly rejecting the suggestion that the film's environmental themes had been censored or deliberately removed. Chong explained that, throughout production, he experienced strong creative support from Pixar's leadership and described the studio as being highly aligned with the film's overall message. He emphasized that the evolution of Hoppers reflected Pixar's long-established filmmaking process rather than outside interference, noting that every Pixar feature undergoes years of extensive revisions, story restructuring, and creative experimentation before reaching its final form. According to Chong, ideas, scenes, and thematic elements are routinely rewritten, refined, or replaced as part of the studio's iterative development model, and this natural process can sometimes be mistaken by outside observers as evidence of censorship. He acknowledged that individuals who witnessed only isolated stages of production might have interpreted the numerous story changes differently, but maintained that, in the case of Hoppers, the revisions were driven by the creative team's desire to strengthen the narrative, character arcs, humor, and emotional impact rather than to diminish the film's environmental message. The completed film ultimately retained conservation as one of its central themes, exploring humanity's relationship with nature through a character-focused story that emphasizes empathy, accountability, coexistence, and the importance of protecting wildlife habitats. Hoppers held its world premiere at the historic El Capitan Theater in Hollywood, Los Angeles, on February 23, 2026, where members of the cast, filmmakers, Pixar executives, and invited guests gathered to celebrate the studio's latest original animated feature. The premiere served as the film's official debut and marked the beginning of its worldwide promotional campaign, with early reactions praising its inventive premise, emotional storytelling, humor, and visual artistry. A few days later, on February 28, 2026, the film was screened as a special presentation at the New York International Children's Film Festival, introducing it to family audiences, critics, educators, and young film enthusiasts ahead of its wide theatrical release. The festival screening further generated positive word of mouth and highlighted the film's themes of environmental stewardship, empathy, and cooperation alongside its broad comedic appeal. Following its premiere engagements, Hoppers was released theatrically in the United States on March 6, 2026, by Walt Disney Studios Motion Pictures, becoming Pixar Animation Studios' first original feature film of the year. The release was accompanied by a comprehensive global marketing campaign that included theatrical trailers, television advertising, promotional partnerships, merchandise, and appearances by the filmmakers and voice cast at media events and fan conventions. Internationally, the film began rolling out on March 4, 2026, opening in several European and Asian territories ahead of its North American debut before expanding gradually into additional international markets over the following weeks. The global theatrical rollout concluded with the film's release in Australia on March 26, 2026, allowing Hoppers to reach audiences worldwide through a staggered release strategy designed to maximize its international box office performance and promotional momentum. The film's worldwide release ultimately contributed to its strong commercial success, establishing Hoppers as one of Pixar's highest-grossing original productions of the decade. The marketing campaign for Hoppers began several months before its theatrical release and combined traditional promotional strategies with social media engagement, brand partnerships, live events, and cross-platform collaborations. Audiences received their first official glimpse of the film during the 2025 Annecy International Animation Film Festival in June 2025, where Pixar unveiled a first-look image showcasing the film's distinctive visual style and introducing Mabel Tanaka in her robotic beaver form. The presentation generated considerable excitement among animation enthusiasts and industry professionals, with early reactions praising the film's colorful environmental setting and unique science fiction premise. Later that month, Pixar surprised moviegoers by attaching a brief teaser to the end credits of Elio. Rather than revealing major story details, the teaser focused on a humorous sequence involving a small green lizard repeatedly typing the lizard emoji on a smartphone, offering no dial. In August 2025, Pixar officially identified the character as Tom Lizard and confirmed that he would play a supporting role in Hoppers. Despite his limited appearance in the teaser, Tom quickly became an unexpected internet sensation. Fans widely shared clips and screenshots across social media platforms, inspiring a large number of memes, fan art, animated GIFs, and parody videos centered on his repetitive emoji gag and deadpan personality. Disney later reported that Tom-related promotional content accumulated as many as 316 million online views across multiple digital platforms, making him one of Pixar's most successful viral marketing characters in recent years. Capitalizing on the character's popularity, Disney produced a life-size Tom Lizard mascot that appeared at advanced screenings, fan conventions, promotional tours, and numerous public events. The mascot also made several playful crossover appearances across Disney-owned media, including a widely publicized stunt in which Tom humorously photobombed ESPN's coverage of Super Bowl LX, further expanding awareness of the film among mainstream audiences. As part of its consumer products campaign, Disney partnered with Yogurtland to introduce a limited edition sugar-free frozen yogurt flavor called Mabel's Nutty Adventure, inspired by the film's woodland setting and adventurous protagonist. The promotion featured exclusive Hoppers-themed packaging, in-store advertising, collectible merchandise, and family-oriented promotional activities designed to coincide with the film's theatrical debut. The partnership formed part of Disney's broader effort to reach younger audiences through nationally recognized food and retail brands. The film also received extensive promotion through popular video games. Coinciding with the film's theatrical release, the free-to-play kart racing game Disney Speedstorm introduced Mabel Tanaka as a playable racer on March 6, 2026. During the mid-season update of Season 18, Piston Cup, players could unlock Mabel and compete using abilities inspired by her adventurous personality and connection to nature. One day earlier, Fortnite released a special Hoppers cosmetic bundle featuring Tom Lizard as a playable character skin, along with themed accessories and other digital items inspired by the film. These gaming collaborations significantly expanded the movie's visibility among younger players and online communities while strengthening Disney's cross-media promotional campaign. One of the most distinctive marketing events took place in the real-life city of Beaverton, Oregon, whose name inspired the fictional setting of Beaverton in the film. To celebrate the movie's release, city officials officially proclaimed March 5, 2026, as Hoppers Day. As part of Pixar's international promotional tour, lead voice actors Piper Critta and Bobby Moynihan visited the city to participate in the celebration. During a public ceremony, Mayor Lacey Beatty presented the actors with a handcrafted wooden key to the city in recognition of the film's connection to Beaverton. In return, Critta and Moynihan presented city officials with a custom artwork created by Pixar commemorating the occasion. The visit also included a community question and answer session moderated by Mayor Beatty, during which the cast spoke with students from the Beaverton School District about animation, filmmaking, voice acting, environmental conservation, and careers in the creative arts. The event attracted widespread local media coverage and served as one of the final major promotional appearances before Hoppers opened in theaters worldwide. Following the conclusion of its theatrical run, Hoppers was released for premium digital purchase by Walt Disney Studios Home Entertainment on April 28, 2026. Becoming available through major digital storefronts and video-on-demand platforms. The digital edition allowed audiences to purchase the film in high-definition and 4K Ultra HD formats and included a selection of bonus features, such as behind-the-scenes documentaries, filmmaker and cast interviews, deleted scenes, concept artwork, production featurettes, and audio commentary exploring the film's development, animation, character design, environmental themes, and the creation of the Hoppers technology. The release gave viewers an in-depth look at the 6-year production process, including Daniel Chong's creative inspirations, Pixar's story development, and the voice cast's recording sessions. On June 2, 2026, Hoppers received a physical home media release on Ultra HD Blu-ray, and DVD through Sony Pictures Home Entertainment, which continued its distribution partnership with Disney for physical media releases in several regions. The physical editions featured high-definition video and immersive surround sound presentations, along with many of the bonus materials included in the digital release. Certain retailer-exclusive editions also included collectible packaging, limited edition artwork, and additional promotional content celebrating Pixar's latest original feature. The following day, on June 3, 2026, Hoppers made its subscription streaming debut on Disney+, allowing audiences around the world to watch the film as part of the service's library of Pixar and Disney titles. Its arrival on the platform introduced the film to a broader global audience after its successful theatrical and home entertainment releases, further expanding its popularity among families and animation fans. The Disney Plus release also strengthened the film's long-term accessibility, enabling viewers to revisit its story, characters, and environmental themes while contributing to its continued success beyond the box office. Hoppers achieved a successful theatrical run, grossing approximately $166.0 million in the United States and Canada and $223.2 million in international markets, for a worldwide total of $389.2 million against a reported production budget of $150 million. The film finished as the seventh highest-grossing film of 2026 worldwide and became one of Pixar Animation Studios' most commercially successful original releases of the post-pandemic era. Its strong performance was widely viewed as a significant recovery for Pixar's original theatrical productions following the mixed commercial results of several previous releases. Industry analysts credited the film's success to its positive critical reception, strong audience word of mouth, family-friendly appeal, and relatively limited competition in the animated marketplace during its early weeks of release. In the United States and Canada, Hoppers opened theatrically on March 6, 2026, alongside The Bride. Prior to its release, industry analysts projected an opening weekend of approximately $40 million from around 4,000 theaters, with many expecting the film to outperform Pixar's recent original features, including Elemental, 2023, which recovered after a modest debut to become a sleeper hit, and Elio, 2025, which underperformed commercially. Advance ticket sales and audience tracking steadily improved in the weeks leading up to release, reflecting growing public interest generated by the film's marketing campaign and favorable early reactions following its premiere. The film earned $13.2 million on its opening day, including $3.2 million from Thursday night preview screenings, exceeding many pre-release expectations and indicating strong family turnout. During its opening weekend, Hoppers grossed $46.3 million domestically while earning an additional $44.2 million from international markets, resulting in a worldwide debut of $90.6 million. The film opened at number 1 at the North American box office and recorded the largest opening weekend for an original Pixar film since Coco, 2017. It also achieved the highest opening for an original animated feature released during the post-pandemic era, marking a notable milestone for both Pixar and Walt Disney Studios Motion Pictures. Box office analysts attributed the stronger-than-expected debut to enthusiastic audience reactions, favorable reviews, sustained online interest generated by the viral popularity of Tom Lizard, and the lack of competing family-oriented releases during the period. Following its impressive opening, Hoppers demonstrated strong theatrical staying power throughout March and April 2026. During its second weekend, the film remained in first place, earning $28.7 million, representing a solid 37% decline from its opening weekend, a whole considered favorable for a family animated film. In its third weekend, the film added $17.8 million, again declining by approximately 37%, while falling to second place behind the debut of Project Hail Mary. Despite surrendering the top position, the film continued to attract consistent family audiences and benefited from positive word of mouth. During its fourth weekend, Hoppers displayed another strong hold, grossing $12.2 million, a decline of just 31%. Further demonstrating its sustained popularity. By its fifth weekend, increased competition from newer releases, including the drama, caused the film to fall to fifth place at the domestic box office, where it earned an additional $5.8 million, representing a steeper 52% decline. Even with the increased competition, the film continued to generate steady revenue throughout the remainder of its theatrical run, supported by repeat family attendance, favorable audience reception, and continued international expansion. Internationally, Hoppers also performed strongly across numerous overseas markets, ultimately earning $223.2 million outside the United States and Canada. The film benefited from Pixar's established global reputation, particularly in Europe, Latin America, and parts of Asia, where its themes of environmental conservation, family, and friendship resonated with audiences. Combined with its successful domestic performance, the film's worldwide box office total of $389.2 million firmly established Hoppers as a commercial success and reaffirmed audience demand for Pixar's original animated storytelling on the theatrical big screen. Hoppers received widespread critical acclaim upon its release, with many reviewers praising its originality, energetic humor, imaginative science fiction premise, emotional storytelling, environmental themes, and strong voice performances. Numerous critics described the film as a creative resurgence for Pixar Animation Studios, viewing it as a successful return to the studio's tradition of combining heartfelt narratives with inventive high-concept ideas. Reviewers also commended director Daniel Chong's distinctive filmmaking style, the screenplay by Jesse Andrews, the vibrant animation, and the chemistry between the film's central characters, particularly the evolving friendships between Mabel Tanaka and King George. While some critics felt the film attempted to balance too many storylines and supporting characters, the overall consensus was that its emotional sincerity, visual creativity, and comedic energy outweighed its narrative shortcomings. On the review aggregation website Rotten Tomatoes, Hoppers holds an approval rating of 94% based on 229 critical reviews, with an average rating of 7.7 out of 10. The website's critical consensus describes the film as an eager beaver for endearment that has the charm to back it up, further praising it as a sprightly riot that might just be the funniest entry in the Pixar canon yet. On Metacritic, which assigns a weighted average score based on selected reviews from professional critics, the film received a score of 73 out of 100 from 46 critics, indicating generally favorable reviews. Audience reception proved equally enthusiastic, with moviegoers surveyed by CinemaScore awarding the film a rare A grade on the company's A+ to F scale, reflecting exceptionally strong word of mouth and widespread audience satisfaction, particularly among families. Several reviewers specifically highlighted Hoppers as evidence that Pixar had successfully regained the creative strengths that define many of its most celebrated original films. Nell Minogue of RogerRabbit.com awarded the film a perfect 4 out of 4 stars, describing it as Pixar at its very best and praising its ability to combine charm, emotional warmth, humor, and grounded storytelling despite its fantastical premise. Wilson Chapman of IndieWire graded the film a B+, applauding its consistently delightful tone and inventive comedy while suggesting that the relationships between Mabel and King George, although engaging, was not developed quite as deeply as Pixar's most iconic character partnerships, such as Marlin and Dory in Finding Nemo. 2003. William Bibbiani of The Wrap enthusiastically compared the film to James Cameron's Avatar, 2009, humorously remarking that Hoppers felt like Avatar if it had feelings and jokingly adding that it was Avatar if it was good, praising the film's emotional storytelling and imaginative use of its body transfer premise. Writing for Variety, Owen Gleiberman described Hoppers as top-drawer Pixar, commending its successful fusion of an outlandish science fiction concept with heartfelt adventure and broad comedy. He particularly praised the film's ability to transform an intentionally absurd premise into an emotionally engaging story without losing its playful spirit. David Rooney of The Hollywood Reporter likewise welcomed the film as a return to the studio's classic creative style, describing it as clever, funny, and visually appealing. Rooney highlighted the film's richly imagined world, energetic pacing, and willingness to embrace its proudly insane universe while remaining emotionally sincere. Lindsay Bear of the Associated Press also responded positively, characterizing the film as a buoyant, freewheeling adventure filled with memorable characters and imaginative action sequences. Although she acknowledged that it did not entirely reach the artistic heights of Pixar's most acclaimed classics, Bear nevertheless considered it a significant step forward for the studio and praised its optimism, humor, and emotional accessibility. Not every review was unreservedly enthusiastic, however. Alyssa Wilkinson of The New York Times offered a more mixed assessment, arguing that the film lacked the conceptual elegance of Inside Out, 2015, and occasionally became overburdened by its numerous plot lines, supporting characters, and shifting narrative focus. Even so, she concluded that Hoppers ultimately succeeded as a thoughtful modern fable enriched by its scientific imagination and charming animal characters. Carlos Morales of IGN similarly described the film as an entertaining and admirable effort, acknowledging weaknesses in its world-building and narrative structure while praising its infectious comedic energy, fast-paced adventure, and highly likable cast of characters. Additional praise came from DC Gomez of Deadline Hollywood, who commended the film for balancing laugh-out-loud comedy with genuine emotional compassion and favorably compared its exploration of technology and environmental conservation to The Wild Robot, 2024. Katie Walsh of the Seattle Times likewise praised the film as a charming, action-packed adventure that skillfully avoided excessive sentimentality by embracing its eccentric sense of humor, describing it as weird, wacky, and witty while maintaining the emotional sincerity long associated with Pixar's strongest original productions. Collectively, critics regarded Hoppers as one of Pixar's strongest original films in years, praising its ambitious storytelling, memorable characters, environmental themes, inventive animation, and ability to appeal to audiences of all ages while reaffirming the studio's reputation for imaginative, emotionally resonant animated filmmaking. Review 1 by Kevin Hoskinson, entertainment editor. Little did I know going into Hoppers that the town we live in would be represented in an unexpected way. Like most Pixar offerings as of late, we weren't sure what to expect going into their new film. It used to be a studio we could rely on, but their offerings over the past few years haven't been the best they have to offer. While I don't think they have made a bad film, there are some that are better than others. They are pretty consistent with their output emotionally, but when it comes to the stories, they don't always hit the way they should or feel oddly misguided. Lightyear, Cars 2 and Leo being two that come to mind. Luckily for us, Hoppers lands on the good side of that spectrum and happens to be one of the most environmentally important films released in a long time. Taking place in a fictional version of a very real town in Oregon, Beaverton, the story is about a girl named Mabel and her quest to save a very important area in town. One cool thing about Pixar is that most of their characters are relatable on some level, and I certainly felt it in this film. Growing up, my grandfather was all about nature and animals, living as one with them and respecting the land around us. Mabel has a similar relationship with her grandmother as they spend their days on a small lake filled with beavers and other wildlife. Much like my daughter, she also has a love for animals from a young age. We are introduced to her as a troubled young girl who does what she needs to do to release the animals held captive in cages at her school. As she gets older, she becomes the thorn in the side of Beaverton Mayor Jerry, who is dedicated to destroying nature to make transit easier and affordable for the residents of town. It's this relationship that causes Mabel to take action when the lake her grandmother held so dear is in danger of being destroyed. This is where the story gets really interesting. At Beaverton University, Mabel stumbles across a top-secret program that connects animals and humans in a unique way. It's very much like Avatar, allowing a human conscience to be placed in a robotic animal which lets them blend in with the critters without much question. Having no training, she takes the form of the beaver and goes on a mission to convince the other beavers to return to the dried-out lake before it's gone for good. It's a strange concept for a Pixar film and certainly one of their most bizarre, but it really works. It knows how silly it is and even makes an Avatar joke of its own, acknowledging that it's been done before. The difference of course is execution, and here it isn't taken nearly as seriously. The themes are similar though, examining the effects that human development and greed has taken on the environment. Like all great villains, Jerry and people like him believe they are doing the right thing and making things easier for their fellow humans when in reality it is taking a major toll on the world around them. It's a tale as old as time, but it's one that is still impactful if told the right way. Beautiful story aside, the voice cast, animation and score are top-notch. Piper Crittenden, Bobby Moynihan and John Hamm take on the lead roles, playing Mabel, King George and Jerry respectively. Hamm is one of those performers who can do any role in any genre, and he nails this one. Piper and Bobby have wonderful chemistry and their moments throughout the film really shine. Being an outsider in the animal world, the king of the beavers, King George, takes her under his wing. He trusts her with all of his heart, which makes the eventual reveal that she is in disguise that much more heartbreaking. King George is the real deal, believing that there is good in everyone and everything, including the humans. The score is composed by veteran musician Mark Mothersbaugh and it is incredible. It perfectly matches the roller coaster of the film by hitting quiet lows and the most epic of highs, amplifying the laughs and the tears. Hoppers is absolutely gorgeous to look at, easily some of the best that the studio has to offer. Directed by Daniel Chong, creator of We Bare Bears, he knows a thing or two about animation and nature. He brings a lot of that show's sensibility to this movie, and it's a match made in movie heaven. The year has just started, but this is already one of my favorite movies so far. It made us laugh and cry, all of which are typical hallmarks for Pixar. It's full of awesome Easter eggs that fans will recognize and has a surprisingly hilarious connection to another film that I won't spoil here. Living in Beaverton, it was really cool seeing this film, and it meant a lot that they took love and care with it. Oregon is incredibly environmentally forward, and that is what I love about living here. Nature is all around us and it must be preserved over progress, which is something this movie represents perfectly. It's a great message and one that people of all ages can understand. Go watch Hopper in theaters now. 2. Bouncing back from the underwhelming Boys' Own sci-fi adventure, Elio, a box office clunker, Pixar returns to vintage form with Hoppers, the captivating tale of a young conservation crusader who uses robotics technology to make herself part of an animal community when its natural habitat comes under threat. Clever, funny and visually appealing, Daniel Chong's nutty action comedy zips along, driven by rambunctious energy and a spirited Mark Mothersbaugh score. Its tenacious protagonist is flanked by a cast of amusingly anthropomorphized creatures that will thrill the core audience of kids while keeping the grown-ups entertained. Jesse Andrews was one of the writers on Pixar's whimsical Italian Riviera fable Luca, a gentle charmer that became a 2021 pandemic casualty, bypassing theaters to go straight to Disney+. He teams here with director Chong, Cartoon Network's We Bare Bears, to bring fervent imagination to a story that often threatens to spin into chaos but has the devil-may-care momentum to keep barreling forward. Hoppers. Release date, Friday, March 6. Cast, Piper Curta, Bobby Moynihan, Job Ham, Kathy Najimy, Dave Franco, Eduardo Franco, Aparna Nankerla, Tom Law, Sam Richardson, Melissa Villas A++ or Isaiah Whitlock Jr., Steve Purcell, Ego Node Dim, Nicole Sakura, Meryl Streep, Karen Hewell, Vanessa Bayer. Director, Daniel Chong. Screenwriter, Jesse Andrews. Rated PG, 1 hour 45 minutes. There's a lot going on. A bustling ecosystem's worth of fun. A science lab robotics experiment. A shifty mayor up for re-election and pushing through an environmentally harmful development project. A testy council of monarchs representing various animal constituencies, and a college freshman whose beloved grandmother's legacy was a deep appreciation for the tranquil escape of nature. It shouldn't all hang together as well as it does, but the movie's freewheeling plotting is exhilarating. Even more so when a frantic chase accelerates to action. Among other things, introducing an airborne whopper shark called Diane, voiced by Vanessa Bayer. She's the apex predator summoned by the Royal Council, in case you were wondering. On paper, that might sound like wacky overload, but in Hopper's proudly insane universe, Diane fits right in. Mabel Tanaka, Piper Curta, is a feisty kid introduced attempting to free all the animals in her Beaverton school science lab and enraged when she's caught. Teaching her to let go of her anger, Mabel's grandma, Karen Huey, takes her to a beautiful glade where she goes to find peace. Staring out over a pond, Grandma instructs her to be still, watch and listen. It's hard to be mad when you feel like you're part of something big. Years later, Mabel's grandma has passed away, but the pond remains her special place to find serenity. Still punchy, she's in constant conflict with the town's slick, smarmy mayor, Jerry Generazzo, Job Ham, never more so than when he starts building a beltway that will plow right through the glade. State regulations put animal habitats off limits, and Mabel is justly suspicious when she discovers that the wildlife once so populous in the area has mysteriously moved on. While figuring out a way to bring the animals back and halt the dynamiting of the dam on the edge of her pond, Mabel witnesses a beaver being thrown in the back of a van and whisked off to Beaverton University. But what she discovers there is unexpected. Her biology professor, Dr. Sam, Kathy Najimy, and her team have made huge advances in a secret robotics project involving temporary brain transference and animal communication. That's all the incentive Mabel needs to plug herself into a robot beaver and investigate why all the creatures have relocated. But no sooner has she infiltrated the animal kingdom than she finds herself in trouble after intervening to save a dopey beaver known as Loaf. Eduardo Franco, from a hungry bear named Ellen. Melissa Villas A++ or, having broken the sacred pond rules by interfering with nature, Mabel faces disciplinary measures from boss Beaver King George, Bobby Moynihan, who voiced the panda in Chong's We Bear Bears, a jolly mammal monarch first seen conducting an animal aerobics session from the top of a new lodge. Did I mention there's a lot going on? George turns out to be a pushover who takes an instant shine to Mabel. But when she learns what caused the animal exodus from the glade, she insists on summoning the all-powerful Royal Council to remedy the situation. That group consists of a taciturn giant frog with the title of Amphibian King, Steve Purcell, the haughty Fish Queen, Ego Node Dim, Bad-Tempered Bird King, Isaiah Whitlock Jr., 3 scary but stupid snake sisters who serve as reptile queens, Nicole Sakura, and presiding over them all, the Iron Butterfly Insect Queen, Meryl Streep. I would have called her Butterfly McQueen, but maybe that's generational. Her succession-hungry son, Titus, Dave Franco, eagerly awaits his ascendance from grub to winged sovereign and is unwittingly helped along by Mabel. When the council rules not just to stop Jerry but to squish him, Mabel and George find themselves in the paradoxical position of having to protect the mayor, who learns a few valuable lessons during the hair-raising adventure that follows. Those and other lessons are built into the screenplay with a lot of humor, teaching kids to respect and understand nature, get involved in the community and protect the vulnerable, even if that means an oily politician. Chong and Andrews get a lot of fun mileage out of interaction between the human and animal worlds. Aided by Beaver Mabel's ability to communicate with the critters. Is the objective of Dr. Sam's high-concept experimentation ever 100% clear? Maybe not, but who cares when you get hilarious jokes involving cell phone facial recognition and animals discovering the joy of emojis. The character designs are delightful. The physicality of the animals a constant source of amusement and the lush green backgrounds of the woodsy setting make Hoppers a treat for the eyes. The decision to cast so many comedians in the voice ensemble pays off big time, with lots of fun idiosyncratic personalities. I wish Mabel had something beyond her name to make her distinctively Japanese-American, but she does have amazing hair and Disney Channel alum-critic gives her very likable won't-quit gumption. This is not a movie that feels fine-tuned to death in studio meetings. There's a crazy, almost anarchic narrative logic that keeps it zigging and zagging unpredictably from the high-speed chase around precarious mountain roads to the suspenseful near-disaster of the climax, in which nature gets angry, and the triumphant eco-solution that saves the day. Teaching kids that we are all part of a complex universe in which everyone contributes and everyone deserves respect seems a pretty cool lesson. 3 Hoppers contains enough humor to satisfy young viewers, but its lack of emotional depth and surprisingly dark tone prevent it from reaching the lofty heights of other Pixar stories. About the film in Hoppers, characters transport their human consciousness into robotic animal bodies to blend in and be accepted in the animal kingdom. In a way, the movie does the same thing. Hoppers feels like an animated film that's trying to be a Pixar movie. The act is believable at times, but it never feels fully at home in its own skin. It has all the outward trappings of a classic Pixar film but no soul. It contains enough humor to satisfy young viewers, but its lack of emotional depth and surprisingly dark tone prevent it from soaring to the lofty heights of other Pixar stories. Fair or not, Pixar Studios is a victim of its own success. The studio's early stories were so groundbreaking that any film that doesn't measure up to those rewatchable classics feels like a letdown. Hoppers isn't bad, but it's subpar by Pixar standards. It doesn't possess the studio's usual imaginative spark. The story's central concept is so reminiscent of films like Avatar that an exacerbated character jokingly comments, "It's nothing like Avatar." While Hoppers may not boast a wholly original concept, It's at its best when it pushes its familiar idea to amusing extremes. Standout scenes feature animals kidnapping a human mayor and a wild moment in which a flock of seagulls lifts a giant shark out of the water and chases after the heroes. The wackier things get, the more momentum Hoppers gains, and for all its shortcomings, Hoppers is rarely dull, which is arguably the primary objective of an animated film. Hoppers has energetic action and emotional drama but lacks the storytelling sophistication to thread them together in the cohesive manner earlier Pixar films like Up, 2009, did so masterfully. Despite exploring similar themes of loss and grief, it includes a wholesome subplot between the main character and her grandma, but the film doesn't give these slower moments enough breathing room to leave an impression. They seem to be included simply to check the emotional pie. Likewise, the film gives off some sci-fi/horror vibes. In a third act role reversal, an insect transports its consciousness into a human robot. The moment is a bit spooky and intense, as is a later scene in which the artificial flesh is pulled away to reveal the robotic face underneath, like a cartoonish Terminator. My 11-year-old sons were unbothered, but even they remarked afterwards, that was actually pretty creepy. Hoppers is very much a PG-rated film, but it's not all cuddly beavers. There's also some potential nightmare fuel for sensitive viewers. In the end, there is certainly fun to be had with Hoppers, and my kids and I enjoyed watching it. But up until the end credits, it felt like it was trying to win me over, and it never fully succeeded. Hoppers is a mixed bag. It's imaginative, but it also leaves a lot of creative potential on the bone. It contains some heartfelt moments, but it never feels like an emotional journey. It's a relatively wholesome film, but it has a darker tone and sharper edge than might be expected. It doesn't contain any problematic content, other than perhaps the slightly darker tone, but it does little to earn a hearty recommendation either. On the surface, profanity, sexual content, violence, etc. Language, there are a few crude words, sucks, and a bird character says the slogan, flap around and find out, which is a clear play on the more profane phrase, fall around and find out. Violence, there is some violence inflicted on insects, such as a butterfly being squished and another being eaten by a frog. There are allusions to natural violence within the animal kingdom, although none is depicted. Sexuality, none. Other, as in many animated films, the main character, who is a young adult, not a child, acts in ways parents wouldn't want their own children to emulate, such as jumping into the middle of dynamite in an act of nature preservation activism. Several thematic threads are woven throughout the story. The deepest and most mature involves Mabel's relationship with her grandma and the grief she experiences after her passing. Mabel, the main character, struggles with a sense of powerlessness to stop the world from changing. It's a poignant, if slightly underdeveloped, storyline. A more universally relatable message for young viewers is the standard animated movie theme about learning to get along with others. It's certainly not a bad message for kids, or their parents, to remember. Where Hoppers demonstrates surprising maturity is in how it elevates human dignity without diminishing our sinful nature. To paraphrase one scene, a character remarks that everyone is good inside. A more cynical character quips, "You know that's not true." The first responds, "But don't you wish that it was?" The perspective of human nature as flawed is consistent with the biblical worldview. People aren't good deep down, we are sinful, self-destructive beings, Romans 3:23. Yet we are still called to love each other, Mark 12:31. Many animated films preach that people should be kind and get along, but Hoppers is honest that doing so isn't always easy. The animal characters have pawn rules to govern their uneasy coexistence. They may live together, but their needs sometimes conflict. For example, predators need to eat prey. The world is messy, painful, and out of our control. There's no perfect solution. Thus, the film encourages viewers to resist selfishness and to embrace a "we're all in this together" attitude, even when doing so requires personal sacrifice. For it has a 93% on Rotten Tomatoes. I walked into Hoppers alongside my 8-year-old, and his pal from school, James, not knowing exactly what to expect. Blame mom life. but I'd watched the trailer only half listening while simultaneously pressuring my toddler to eat the yogurt. The fact that it was the latest film from Pixar and deemed age-appropriate for my 8-year-old was all I needed to hear. Oh, also the fact that it included animals. My dinosaur-loving kid is pretty into all types of creatures. It seemed like a natural fit. Fast forward approximately 2 hours to when the closing credits rolled and I was blown away. The film, about a girl who will stop at nothing to save the local forest glade she regularly visited with her grandmother, left me feeling emotional, uplifted and empowered. To an adult, the themes felt eerily familiar, especially the idea that might does not equal right. The jokes also had me laughing out loud. This part is in the trailer, but the idea of pawn rules, plus the animals' acceptance of it, is both clever and hilarious. But the important part, what did my 8-year-old son think of it? Was the storyline too complex or scary? Here's his honest review. With the storyline that feels reminiscent of both Finding Nemo and Up, the film follows the story of Mabel Tanaka, voiced by Piper Crita, a girl who, as a young child, combats bouts of anger and anxiety by grounding herself quite literally in nature. It was her grandmother, Karen Huey, who encouraged this approach, taking her to the local glade near her home in Beaverton where she could practice staying present by tuning into the animals, plants and insects that populate the natural world around them. It's hard to be mad when you feel like you're part of something big, her grandmother advises in an early scene. But time marches on and, while Mabel, who, as a teenager, is spirited and feisty as she charts her path, continues to cherish the glade as a respite, those in power, including the slick and popular mayor, voiced by John Hamm, see it only as a nuisance. They want to run a beltway over it, something they get the green light to do as long as they can prove all the animals have left the glade. Ding, ding, ding. Mabel has her answer, which is confirmed by her biology professor, Dr. Sam, Kathy Najimy. If she can get a beaver to move back there, which is an anchor species, it will set up permanent shop, building a dam and luring other animals back to the glade along the way. But that's when Mabel discovers something truly incredible, her professor's secret development of a robotic beaver that allows her to hop between human and animal worlds in order to study them. It's just like Avatar, Mabel shrieks. It's nothing like Avatar. Her professor fires back. Of course, Mabel immediately sees a different use. Cassie assume the form of a beaver, talk to the beavers directly and get them to move back to the glade immediately. But will it work or alter human-animal relations forever? It gets pretty complicated from there. I'll admit that much of my enjoyment of this film came from taking cues from my son. It helped that he viewed it with a friend, too, which gave me a dual perspective on the moments that hit, and the ones that missed. As the opening scenes began, I did worry just a bit that this film might be a bit too complex. It's one of those plots with so many strings that I was captivated, but also wondering throughout how they'd close the loop on all of them. Still, about 20 minutes in, when Mabel morphs into beaver form and is given a front row seat, and then some, to animal life and the aforementioned pawn rules, when it's time to eat, they were hooked. It helps that the characters are so funny. First and foremost, there's King George, voiced by Bobby Moynihan, who is the beaver leader with the cheerleader-wide disposition. The scene where he leads every single displaced animal and forest-style jazzercise is priceless, but so is his overall humor and heart. There's also a decision made by the animal world to call in an apex predator, a great white shark, to right the score against the humans that had the kids and myself a goofing. And when Mayor Jerry has to answer for his antics, let's just say the animal's reliance on emojis to communicate is hysterical, and became the part my child and his friend couldn't stop referencing. All that said, it's worth preparing for some scarier scene, as for example, when during the film's penultimate moment, an animal using the technology goes rogue and takes things to a more maniacal level. Small spoiler alert, but a wildfire results. This was the part where the line between fiction and reality blurs the most, but also delivers the film's true poignancy and impact. I cried. It also led me to spend much of the walk home with my son transparently explaining that, yes, wildfires are real, and yes, first responders work hard to come together and utilize modern solutions to put them out. Hoppers is clever, complex and character-driven. Meryl Streep's brief vocal cameo as the Queen Butterfly at a royal round table on behalf of all animals is inspired, but it's also full of charm. Diane, the great white shark, is a perfect example of a chase scene that is not just unexpected, but endearing. By the end, there wasn't a character we weren't rooting for. Yes, even Jerry. I also couldn't believe how much my son extended his knowledge of the animal world and how so many species coexist together. Like I said, the film packs a lot into 2 hours of viewing. My final mom-pav on the film, and perhaps the part that caused the up-level tears to flow. Hoppers is a film that reminds its audience that it's okay to change your opinion based on new information and not have it held against you. A valuable lesson for all. 5. Pixar's done it again. Hoppers proves exactly why the animation studio remains best in class for stunning visuals, entertaining stories, and a whole lot of heart. The upcoming animated movie centers on the hot-headed and impulsive but well-meaning Mabel Tanaka, Piper Crida, who lives in the city of Beaverton and takes it upon herself to save a local forest glade from being destroyed by Mayor Jerry Jobham, to build his highway. In the process, she stumbles across secret technology that allows the user to mind-hop into animals, using it to pose as a beaver, infiltrate the local community of animals led by the adorably pure beaver King George, Bobby Moynihan, and scheme to lure the animals back to the glade they've been driven out of with mixed results. At its heart, the movie is a parable about environmentalism and human nature. But while those lofty ideals might seem destined to give the movie an air of pomposity, Hoppers is surprisingly down-to-earth and frequently laugh-out-loud funny. Hoppers blends hard humor Disney and Pixar old pros at delivering movies with messages while avoiding the pitfalls of preachiness. Still, I'll be the first to admit the log line of Hoppers gave me pause, wondering how director, and Pixar senior creative team member, Daniel Chong and writer Jesse Andrews might make this concept unto anything but a PSA for respecting Mother Nature. To be sure, there's plenty of messaging in Hoppers, but the humor and story are always put first, never suffering to drill down the moral of the story. That moral is made abundantly clear by the time the credits run, but Chong and Andrews pull off the trick of delivering the medicine with several spoonfuls of sugar, ensuring it goes down easy. From the opening scene, which introduces Mabel as a child and shows how her relationship with her beloved grandmother inspired her love of nature, Hoppers makes clear these characters aren't metaphors, they are real, fully formed, well-rounded people, and animals. Mabel is flawed, quick to anger, occasionally blinded to the bigger picture by her all-consuming desire to fix things, and it makes her one of the best Pixar heroines to date. She makes mistakes, frequently, and acts without thinking, occasionally to disastrous results, but Andrews does a great job showing and not merely telling us that Mabel's heart is in the right place. It makes it impossible not to root for her, even when you want to reach through the screen and shake some sense into her. Crida pulls off every note in this complicated role and is particularly powerful in a standout moment at the film's climax where Mabel has an emotional outburst that's shockingly deep for an animated kids movie. Similarly, the movie cleverly develops its apparent antagonist, Mayor Jerry, a pompous, stereotypically slick politician whose only concerns are re-election and public adoration. He's a character who would have been a one-note villain in a lesser movie. Here, his surprising arc is immensely satisfying and feels well-earned by the end. The first time he and Mabel share the screen sets the stage that their adversarial relationship has layers to it. Ham, too, is perfectly cast. Hoppers has a stacked voice cast, as the Hoppers trailer is quickly established. The movie abounds with adorable animated animals. The rules of the Hoppers universe make them even cuter, with the animals appearing anthropomorphic only to those tapped into the Hopper technology, but blank-eyed and sweetly innocent at all other time. The switch between these two modes is used to incredible effect at several key emotional climaxes in the film. The writing makes swift work of establishing Mabel's main crew of animal pals, which includes a hapless beaver named Loaf, Eduardo Franco, and a bear named Ellen, Melissa Villas A++or, who introduced Mabel Beaver to King George. Each is given a distinct set of characteristics, making them immediately memorable, and their interplay is genuinely laugh-out-loud worthy. Even better, The humor works for both kids and adults, say much like Pixar's exemplary Toy Story franchise, widely considered the best in class at appealing to multiple demographics, say, though I largely recommend Hoppers for the 6 and up crowd, given a few intense scenes in the third act that I am sure would have terrified my 3-year-old. Beyond Mabel and her core group, there are seemingly endless new characters introduced. Miraculously, the vast majority of them are well-formed and individualized, with distinct quirks that set them apart, even for those that don't have meaningful bearing on the plot. A particular standout is Diane the Shark Assassin. She's deployed in a tense moment but simultaneously as funny as you'd expect an apex predator voiced by Saturday Night Live alum Vanessa Bayer to be. Given the sheer number of characters in this movie, have I even mentioned the haughty insect queen voiced by Meryl Streep, or her pompous air voiced by Dave Franco. It's remarkable that none feel extraneous. This is down to the performances, the excellent dialogue, and perhaps most importantly, the world building. From pond rules to the eventual summoning of the council, the kings and queens who preside over each sector of the animal kingdom, the creative team has produced a world that's perfect for this fish-out-of-water story, and with a hell of a lot of franchise potential. Hoppers seems bound for a sequel, or 5, though Hoppers ends cleanly, wrapping up its core story with no loose ends. It's hard to imagine we won't get a sequel. The plot point that might seemingly preclude that happening could easily be undone, and though Mabel's arc feels very complete, it would be great to see her as a mentor figure to a future younger main character who takes up the mantle. Audiences will assuredly be eager to see these characters again, particularly the main animal characters, who quickly establish a rapport among themselves that rivals the crew from other animal-centric franchises like Zootopia, Ice Age, and Madagascar. Just listing out those other examples reminds me of how impressive it is that the Hoppers crew has taken on a well-established concept and managed to create something so fresh and deliciously fun. It proves that this medium A and Pixar A still have plenty of gas in the tank. 6. There's a famous scene in The Lion King in which feline Prince Simba, still learning of the responsibilities he will take on once he becomes ruler of the Pride Lands, listens as his wise father Mufasa describes the circle of life the animals of this paradise live by. The lions may eat the antelopes that roam the fields, but the lions' bodies become the grass the antelopes eat. In that way, we are all connected in the great circle of life, Mufasa extols, as the camera pans to a shot of the gorgeous savanna landscape. Hoppers, Pixar's latest movie and its best new release in a solid decade, is also a film about the burdens of an animal king defending his subjects, one who's briefly alluded to backstory, reclaiming the throne after his uncle usurped his father, bears a probably not coincidental resemblance to Simba's arc. But this monarch had a dorky, sweetly optimistic, 80s pop rock-loving beaver King George, voiced by Bobby Moynihan, cuts a much less traditionally regal figure than Mufasa, and his domain, a small forest pond overpacked with too many animals for it to properly sustain itself, proves far more modest. George's version of the circle of life, the pond rules he enforces upon his subjects, is a lot less poetic and a lot more practical. If you gotta eat, eat. Another difference between the two movies, in The Lion King, Mufasa may have talked about eating the antelopes, but the audience never actually saw it. Like most animated features that humanize animals into fun, friendly characters, The Lion King perhaps didn't want to sully the fantasy it offered with the reality that Simba would be more inclined to eat Timon and Pumbaa than befriend them. In Hoppers, all the killing and violence inherent to the animal kingdom is right there in gloriously casual display. When protagonist Mabel, Piper Creda, a 19-year-old environmental activist who has hopped her way into the body of a realistic beaver robot, first infiltrates the ecosystem of this forest, she saves the lazy beaver loaf, Eduardo Franco, from getting eaten by grizzly bear Ellen, Melissa Villas A++, despite his protests that he was fine with it. As George takes Mabel on a tour of his kingdom, Ellen gobbles up a fish, while a friendly worm gets abruptly carried off by a bird that swoops in from the sky. At the midpoint of the film, There's a display of mammal-on-insect violence so abrupt and visceral that it's both a little horrifying and also maybe the single funniest scene Pixar has ever animated. Hoppers comes to theaters as the once mighty studio has lost its luster, with a run alternating between sequels that are mere shadows of their predecessors and original films like Elio or Elemental that felt constrained and formulaic. Attempts to reverse engineer the type of heartfelt, high-concept experience people have come to expect from Pixar without taking any actual risks. The dimming prestige of the brand perhaps allowed Hoppers the freedom to be something much more modest, and also way more fun and satisfying. A hilarious, joke-a-second comedy that has its moments of sweetness and emotional resonance, but isn't looking to force tears out of you. Whereas much of the studio's recent output feels like it could have been made by anybody, Hoppers is the first Pixar film since Turning Red in 2022 to have a strong, evident creative voice. Director Daniel Chong started making the film after the conclusion of his Cartoon Network series We Bare Bears, a sitcom about three wild bears in the Bay Area trying and mostly failing to integrate with human society. Much of that show's DNA has carried over to Chong's feature debut, a quirky, humorous look at the animal kingdom with a streak of cringe comedy that derives as much pleasure from how gross and dumb mammals can be with their shrill, shrieking voices and body oils as it is from how cute they are. And they are very cute. Pixar's animation style, which has veered toward the gorgeous but generic in recent years, gets a refresh here. There are still moments of showy technical prowess, including crowd scenes where thousands of butterflies fly across the screen at one time, but the film's rounded and adorable character designs for its animals prove refreshingly simple. In one clever touch, the animals have more detailed designs when viewed from their perspective, and are given blank, beady black eyes when we see them from humanity's perspective. What drove many episodes of We Bare Bears was the relationships between the natural world and the drudgery of modern human living, and that's also the tension that courses through Hoppers, a lovingly environmentalist tale that never gets overly preachy. The film opens as Mabel, barely, attending the local university in her hometown Beaverton, stages a one-woman campaign against the construction of a high-speed rail ordered by smarmy Mayor Jerry Jobham, perfect for this, as a bid to guarantee his re-election. Her protest, disrupting builds and going door-to-door looking for petition signatures, focuses on its environmental impact but is intensely personal for her. The rail is set to cut through a now abandoned glade near her deceased grandmother's home, the place where she, as a misunderstood kid who spent her recesses trying to break the school tortoise out of class, first learned to stop, listen, and love nature. But in the present day, with the glade abandoned, the only hope for construction to stop is for Mabel to find a beaver, a keystone species that can once again make the area inhabitable, which is where the titular Hoppers technology, an experiment designed by Mabel's frazzled biology professor Dr. Sam, Kathy Najimy, comes in. Designed to perfect the art of studying animals incognito. There's a great montage of all the broken bar less high-tech predecessors to the invention. The machine puts the user in the body of an adorable orange-furred beaver and gives them the ability to talk with all animals, from the spiders on their webs to the fish in the sea. In a joke that's very funny but also presumably meant to get ahead of snarky internet comments, Dr. Sam insists it's nothing like a Avatar right before Mabel steals the tech to take her campaign to save the glade's animals directly to the source. If there's a chief flaw to Hoppers, it's that it has so much plot for its 100-minute running time that you wish it could settle down in one place for longer. After Mabel gets into her robot beaver body, the film barrels through its storyline so quickly that she goes from frazzled outsider to a Joan of Arc-style revolutionary figure to the animals in the space of a single scene, with a large ensemble of animals and humans alike and an entire second half dedicated to fighting a council intent on squishing humanity. There's not enough time to deepen the sweet friendships between Mabel and George into something as powerful as, say, Merlin and Dory and Finding Nemo. Still, what we do get is pretty uniformly delightful. The screenplay for Hoppers, credited to Jesse Andrews and based on a story by Chong, has pitch-perfect comic timing, From gags that achieve the sideshow ball break effect of going just long enough, they loop right back around to hilarious to little one-liners that absolutely complete the scene. Importantly, the movie's sense of humor is always grounded in the situation happening and the distinct crazy personalities surrounding Mabel's stubborn straight woman. For example, a standout sequence in which Mabel's attempts to communicate with Jerry via text-to-speech on her phone are derailed by George and the other animals hijacking it while discovering emojis is a riot, and only works because each of the characters is immediately understandable. It helps that the voice cast proves uniformly strong, with Krita adding a real edge to Mabel that makes it easy to understand why some of her enemies refer to her as shrill and unlikable, even as you root for her. Meryl Streep makes an incredible cameo as a distinguished butterfly. Najami is hilarious as the possibly slightly Doc Brown-inspired professor, and Moynihan, who previously voiced one of the main characters on We Bear Bears, is perfectly cast as the irrepressibly cheerful George. Ham might be the standout, though, playing a slick and punchable politician who steadily unspools into a nervous wreck as the wildlife he's attempting to displace start pursuing him. In a film that nimbly walks the tightrope between lightheartedness and weightlessness, Jerry and Mabel's antagonistic relationship ends up proving the unexpected core of the story. Their backstories are kept brief. Mabel's origin story prologue is no up, but Hoppers makes it clear that for all their issues with each other, they're both decent people navigating their own problems, from Mabel's grief and listlessness after losing her grandmother to Jerry's career and family life. The moral it eventually draws from the human versus nature debate the two exemplify that what's most important is coexistence, and learning to listen and support one another isn't necessarily surprising, but it's poignant all the same. That's the circle of life, Hopper's style, and just because it's not as elegant as it when Mufasa says it doesn't mean it isn't meaningful. Grade B+. Disney will release Hoppers in theaters on Friday, March 6. Want to stay up to date on IndieWire's film reviews and critical thoughts? Subscribe here to our newly launched newsletter, In Review by David Ehrlich, in which our chief film critic and head reviews editor rounds up the best new reviews and streaming picks along with some exclusive musings, all only available to subscribers. 7. Pixar's Hoppers hits with a profound, pronounced, perfectly handled heart. The film refuses to be cynical. It chooses care. Loudly, that choice matters, because caring takes work. It is richer and messier than pessimism. It also creates more emotional colors to play with. Caring is the hardest thing, and Hoppers commits. Hoppers is unafraid to care, even when caring makes the story complicated. The film argues that empathy is not passive. It is active, inconvenient, and sometimes embarrassing. That is what makes it powerful. Daniel Chong directs with a confidence that trusts sincerity, and the script builds emotional weight without begging for it. Chong's sneakiest tool is what I can only call an overload of cuteness. The film floods you with adorable details, then uses that softness to slip in hard truths. It lands subtle messages with impact, because your guard stays down. Mabel's hyper-puppy energy with a tender, short-sighted soul. Mabel is a full-force sparkler, all enthusiasm, innocence, and reckless devotion. She carries hyper-puppy energy in every choice, which makes her mistakes feel human instead of annoying. She also feels like a heavy-hearted teen who wants to do the right thing fast, even when she lacks perspective. Piper Krita voices her with urgency and warmth, and that balance keeps Mabel endearing while she barrels into consequences. The Hop premise amplifies her heart. Putting her consciousness into a lifelike robotic beaver lets her live her dream, and also confront what she never considered. That clash gives Mabel real growth, not just a lesson of the week arc. Bobby Moynihan gives King George a regal optimism that could have turned flat in weaker hands. Instead, he plays him as a hopeful leader who lives with benevolence, not Tilda Macravet Tilda copyright. King George believes in community, and he earns that belief through action. Moynihan makes him funny, but never flimsy. He gives the character a center, and the film leans on it. The casting pops. The human voices fit like gloves, especially John Hamm as Mayor Jerry, a smooth operator with the shiny persona and a cracking temper beneath it. Hamm has a blast, and the movie benefits from his ability to sound charming and threatening in the same breath. The animal voices feel like delightful curveballs. Those unexpected combinations give the animal kingdom personality beyond cute side characters. Meryl Streep as the insect queen alone tells you this movie came to play. Dave Franco also goes for it. He chews scenery in a way that stays fun, not loud for its own sake. The film uses those big comedic flavors to keep the adventure buoyant, even when the emotional stakes drop heavy. Hoppers does not try to brute force new visual boundaries. Instead, it builds a subtly vivid world with smart choices. Color combinations feel playful but intentional. Shapes read clean and expressive. Related, BTS The Comeback Live, Rank trailer and key art drop sets up Netflix's biggest K-pop livestream yet cartoon exaggerations appear in the right places, then pull back to maintain a grounded guise. The result creates wonder without losing clarity, and it keeps the emotional moments honest. This is not borderline traumatizing in the way some Pixar entries can be. Still, the weight of the situation hits hard, especially when consequences arrive. You feel fear, sadness, anger, disgust, and joy, sometimes back to back. The movie takes you on a long emotional journey and lets you enjoy the scenery at every stop. It trusts that kids can handle real feelings, and it trusts that adults still need them, which is why I give Hoppers. Hoppers opens exclusively in theaters on March 6, 2026. Catch it on the biggest screen you can, because the film's color work and creature scale deserve room. Bring tissues, bring snacks, and bring someone who thinks they're too cool for cute movies. This one will get them anyway. Factual error: sharks have no vocal cords. Even assuming that the Hopper software could translate whatever communication Diane gave into speech, Jerry as a human would never hear her roaring. Factual error: late in the movie, a flock of seagulls lifts a great white shark out of the water to try and dispose of the mayor. They also show this briefly in the credits where Mabel is writing it as it happens. The amount of seagulls shown wouldn't be enough to do that. Such a feat would need about 3,000 seagulls for it to be done. A fully grown great white shark weighs about 2 tons. Plot hole: it was never explained or revealed.